Hey guys, this is the round two of my wide-ranging conversation with none other than Pancham Prashar. Pancham Prashar is one of the co-founders at Qblocks. It's a digital marketing and e-commerce development agency, one of its kind agency you'll find anywhere in India. They charge an hourly rate of as high as 55 and $60 an hour for development. They have a very strong culture. Pancham, with his two co-founders and partners, has been running and growing Qblocks for a long time. And I personally had the opportunity to work with Pancham when I was an employee at Qblocks. He was my boss. I learned so much from him about sales, about finding clients, about building culture, about hiring people, finding people, and overall how to live a more meaningful life. He's my go-to person for several areas. I just love talking to him. So in part one, we covered a lot of ground, but in part two, we take a deep dive into, especially into the areas related to running an agency business. And I highly recommend you go and check out part one. I'll put the link to the part one in the description below. Or you can just go to www.pulkit.org to check out this interview along with other interviews that I keep posting on my blog. I highly recommend you check out, especially if you're running a digital marketing agency, you have employees, you want to build culture, you want to build systems and processes, and you want to learn what it takes to grow an agency, make it really profitable, charge a premium, retain clients, work with good clients. We covered a lot of ground in this particular episode. So without any further ado, check out my discussion with Pancham Prashar. I hope you like it as much as I did speaking with Pancham. And we are back.
And we are back, round two.
So without taking time, I'd like to circle back. One of the questions I want to ask you, Pancham, is about the agency mistakes, because as you know, running an agency is nearly not as easy as people might think. A lot of people who are not in this business think that is, oh, laptop खोला काम करने बैठ गए इनके पैसे PayPal पे आ जाते हैं डॉलरों में कमाते हैं. It looks very easy, but as a business I think it's so difficult to run, especially agency. It's easy to be a freelancer when you're working with a client, but running an agency, it's like managing multiple businesses. You have to be able to, and you like it or not, you're managing accounting, you're managing people, you have to hire people, you have to develop business, and HR. I mean, it's a lot of work when you put all these things together, and it's very hard for someone who doesn't have the experience. How do you think this machine of running an agency, especially providing services to clients, how does this work when it's profitable? A, and B, what are the mistakes that you see people making when they are running their business, an agency business?
Yeah, I think a very pertinent question, Pulkit. I think I'm taken back to the times when we were starting our own work, and so उससे कई चीजें पता चली that what are the common mistakes that you can make when you're starting out, and maybe it might help somebody, right? If whatever we are sharing. So number one, I think if anybody who's a freelancer is working somewhere and wants to start their own business for whatever reasons, or they think they're ready, or they think the time is right, or they have an idea, I feel that the most important thing is the right partnership, the kind of people that you get along, on the journey. If you're a solopreneur, that's a different thing. But if you have like one or two or three other partners along with you, the choice of the partners are very important. So a classic mistake people can make, in my mind, is if somebody says, you know what, I got the idea, I have this other friend of mine who's got the money. There's another friend of mine who's got real estate and property. उसके वहाँ पे हम लोग अपने office set कर लेंगे, rent नहीं देना पड़ेगा. So it's very numerical, it's very mathematical and calculative. That I think is it's in most cases a cocktail for disaster, because you're actually determining to start something based on very short term views. So whenever you're looking at starting any business, or there is another person involved, I feel what you have to see is whether you guys match each other in terms of your value system, because that if that is intact, whenever there are going to be challenging situations, and there'll be plenty of challenging situations, then you won't be tearing each other apart or going in different directions, at least in terms of your morals and ethics. कि हमने इस सिचुएशन को डील कैसे करना है. There may be a slightly different way of dealing with it, but it will never be based on the fundamentals which are wrong. For example, if let's say one of the partners is very believes in a lot of values, doing the right thing. Now there's another person who comes in with money or with maybe the idea, but that person has very different worldviews. For him or her, the whole idea is about just making money by any way possible. Now, in that scenario, if this marriage has happened, whenever those tough situations will happen, uh, there will be multiple times where such kind of a conflict will slowly start eroding your own confidence and your own value system, and you'll start questioning, why am I doing it? So I think most importantly is whenever you're getting into a partnership, beyond the numerical value, simple business acumen that user may get in, or that partner may bring in to the equation, it's very important to see that whether you like each other as people, right? Whether you believe in common things, and for that sometimes you have to observe each other. If you're friends and you would know each other for a while कि यार इसको गुस्सा ज़्यादा आता है, या ये बंदा है कि ये बहुत ज़्यादा शातिर है, चालाक है, या beyond that. And there are instances, and it's important not to overlook it and hurry into getting into something, because later on just getting, when a business doesn't do well, and the numbers are crazy, 90% plus businesses, they go belly up in the first 3 years. The stats are there; they are not there anymore. And a lot of it is not because the idea ठीक नहीं था. A lot of it is because somehow they were not compatible together. They couldn't really work it out together. So, in order to kind of avoid any long-term issues, I think it's important to kind of see whether you guys see eye to eye in terms of value.
Pancham?
Complementing each other, and you're not kind of stepping on each other's toe. So if let's say somebody has got not a show, but yes, each other's toe. For example, if somebody is good with design and somebody is analytically very good, and somebody is really good with marketing, and you have three partners, like in our case, in case of Qblocks, then you get independent activities to spearhead, and you can take each other's inputs, but you're not necessarily doing exactly the same thing. So that also allows your business to do better, because there are more focused minds going on different important aspects of running a business. और शुरू के अंदर तो you have to take care of, like you rightly said, the HR, the accounts. You're the office boy yourself. You are the salesperson. You're the face of the organization. So you have to do multiple things. So if you have partners who, beyond, in addition to having common values, they are also complementing your skills, and they can take care of some independent activity, and there will obviously be overlaps. HR, for example, accounts, strategic planning, these are very common things that you will discuss together. But on a day-to-day basis, majority of your time is going on certain areas which are independent. I think that makes it a little bit easy.
Yeah, I think I get what you're saying, because I do see, as someone who has worked with three of you, I do see how, even though you have overlapping roles, you, Avneet and Sarthak, but see that you are taking ownership. Avneet is someone who's taking ownership of the technology. At the end of the day, she takes the ownership, and you take ownership of sales and marketing side. And Sarthak is totally taking care of the creative side. How can he keep the company ahead on the creative side? And you obviously have overlapping rules. And this is where you said, when you have overlapping roles, as it'll always happen when partners are working together, you should be on the same page, at least regarding the value system, so that you're not. And I think, Pancham, last time we had this discussion, and you said the same thing. And I did not share with you, Pancham, when I met you last time in Starbucks, and we were talking about it. And I asked you this question, and you told me that, Pulkit, I think it has worked for 15 years because we share the same values. And it was this exactly same thing I wanted to hear at that time, because I told you I entered a partnership which I wasn't really happy about. I knew there's something that is bugging me, which is I'm not happy about, but I wasn't able to put my finger on it, because I was doing a lot of hard work, and so was he. He was putting in a lot of into that partnership. Right. But some in my gut, I was not enjoying it. And when I spoke to you about it, I asked you, what do you think are the good characteristics of a partnership? Because you are a very good example. 15 years is long, is a very long time for three friends, three partners to stay together. And company also keeps growing. It's not that the partnership is there and the business is not there. Business also thriving. So something is right. And you said we share the same value system, at least on the value side. So you said that we might have different opinion about something, and there might be conflicts when we
Right.
don't want the same thing. But at the end of the day, regarding the very fundamental values of the business, how we treat people, how we treat our clients, we are never on the same page. We are always on the same page. I'm sorry, we're always on the same page. And so there we are never, you said you're never on are really, there's a conflict about the way the business should be run, about treating people right, which made a lot of sense. And I felt I'm not on the same, I'm not saying that the way I was approaching my business as a partner was very good. We all tell a different story to ourselves when we operate in a partnership. And the funny thing is, when you enter a partnership, it's there's always a honeymoon period when everything
Mm-hmm.
looks beautiful and rosy, and then you have to put in effort. You have to put in effort into the relationship, whether it's a personal relationship or a business, a partnership. You have to constantly put in your effort. But I saw that no matter how much effort I'll put into it, there'll be no beautiful ending to the story. I have to end it now before it becomes big. And after meeting you, I took almost a week to ponder over it, and I took the decision that I'm going to step down or step out of the relationship, that partnership. And I think it's been 8 9 months now. I'm happy. I'm so glad I did that, because it was not very happy at that time when I took that decision. But now I feel so relieved. Feel so free, because exactly the same thing. We both were progressive. We both were aggressive. We wanted to grow the business, but not on the same page regarding how we treat people and how we treat our clients, how fast we want to or slow we want to go, and also about something as basic as the work-life balance. For a person like me who is like, I would say I'm not very fast. If I want to put in quality hours, I do not want to work 16 hours in a day. But if your partner wants to work 16 hours in a day, both want both want it do it for the benefit of the company, but one person doesn't want to do it. A person wants to work 7 hours, 8 hours, or maybe 6 hours, but do some really creative work and just bring more value, and the other person has to. No, they both want good, but they're not on the same page. This is what I felt, that this is not going in the good direction. I have to do something about it now. And after
No,
I
I'm
went
glad that
with
you.
clarity.
I'm glad that you took that call and you listened to your gut, because see, eventually it's also about opportunity cost, right?
Yeah.
You could have dragged on that relationship for a longer time. It could have maybe gone for another year or 2 years. But eventually, if there is something fundamentally not right,
Yeah.
एंड ये इसमें इसमें थोड़ा ना लालच को दूर रखना पड़ता है, ग्रीड को, ग्रोथ को दूर रखना पड़ता है, एंड यू हैव टू सी व्हाट इज इंपॉर्टेंट टू यू, राइट? You can sometimes get along with a partner or get a partner on board or start a business with somebody who you think is an immediate value addition to the company in terms of the growth. If you're only looking purely from the that he has a great presence, great network, or she has a great presence, great network, can get work done, very organized, but then if you're paying a price with something else, if that's the only thing, but there are other things which are not matching, they eventually will show up. So, so I think the primary starting point for any new business or any advice, again, from my limited experience, would be you look at seeing whether you as a partner and all two, three of you as partners are overlapping in terms of values. Right? When push comes to shove, when bad decisions, when difficult decisions have to be made, what is your true north? What guides you? Is it only from a selfish intent, or do you want to be fair to people? Do you want to be treated fairly? Do you want to be following the golden rule, which is to do unto others as you would like to be treated, right, or to be done upon you? तो वो चीजें बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट हैं, आई थिंक, बिकॉज अगर वो आपकी एक इंटैक्ट होंगी, तो अगर जब भी कॉन्फ्लिक्ट आएगा, जब भी डिफरेंस ऑफ ओपिनियन आएंगे, और जो आने जरूरी हैं पार्टनरशिप में, if everything is going smooth, maybe you're not really pushing each other, maybe you're not really putting yourself out of your comfort zone. जब आप वो करोगे तब एटलीस्ट इन फंडामेंटल चीजों पे, और अगर वो फंडामेंटल चीजों पे लड़ाइयाँ नहीं होंगी तो जो आपके डिसीजन निकलेंगे वो और अच्छे निकल के आएंगे, बेटर निकलेंगे. यू विल हैव डिफरेंट ओपिनियंस बट नॉट बेस्ड ऑन हाउ सम सिचुएशन शुड बी हैंडल्ड फ्रॉम एन एथिकल एंड अ मॉरल स्टैंड. So I'm very happy actually that you shared, because I didn't know this, that this is something that had happened.
It was
And
a lot of stress, Pancham. I mean,
I can
to
imagine.
break in relationship, I mean, people go through divorce. I imagine it has to be very stressful. You break a partnership, it's very stressful because you start with someone with a lot of dreams, just like a girl and boy meets, they see a common dream that we'll have a family, we'll have children, and we will live happily ever after. And things don't happen that way, and both are putting their 100%, but they're not getting the result. And one person wants to stay in that relationship, other person wants to go. Now, how do
Right.
you do that in a beautiful way? There's no beautiful ending.
Right.
And what I learned
Completely.
is when two partners meet and they work together, the only time they look at the agreement, if there's an agreement, if either two people start with trust, no written agreement, which I feel is not the right way. But let's say you have an agreement. The only time you look at the agreement is when you're breaking that partnership, when there's a breach of trust, when you want to
Right.
exit that partnership. Otherwise, when you're in that rosy mood, that when you're in the honeymoon period of that business relationship, you'll never look at the piece of paper that you've signed with that person. But
Totally.
when you're breaking it, you'll look at that paper, what do I have to lose, and that person will also check what do I have to lose. And this goes straight to the people get into all those legalities, and people do unfair things with each other because now they feel, okay, मैं इसके साथ काम नहीं कर रहा, why do I have to be nice to this person, and things turn
Right.
ugly. So I think it's a lesson I learned a very hard way, Mancham. Be very careful about when you're partnering with someone. Things might look very rosy now, and they can very quickly turn ugly. And when people are exiting relationships, they do not think about you. I mean, they will take what they can. So I mean, I'm asking you questions, but I can tell you from my own negative experiences that partnerships, like you said, are very important, but don't get into a partnership until you're 100% sure. Especially what I learned, Pancham, is look at the actions of the person you work with over a period of time.
Absolutely.
Don't judge the person by what they're saying now. I learned, because if I had looked at the actions of the other person over last 10 years or 15 years, I knew that person from, I would have knew what the result would be. The outcome was very obvious. It's just that,
Totally.
but you start a business, you're very enthusiastic, you hope that this thing will not happen, but it will happen.
Right.
So the legality part, when you're signing up any paper with the person, one has to be very careful. And like you said, the value system, we have to be on the same page.
Yeah. No, completely. And I think I agree with you that if you know that person, preferably get into a partnership with somebody who you really know for some time, and you've been able to observe, and likewise they've observed you at different situations, right? Especially at 2 points. I firmly believe that your character is shown during two part times in your life, when everything is going right and when probably a lot of things are going wrong.
Yeah.
इन दोनों टाइम के अंदर आप कैसा बिहेव करते हो speaks a lot about you. When everything is going all right, people can say a lot of good things and act in certain ways. It's only when there are pressure points and when everything is going perfect,
Yeah.
then that is where you realize how the person is, right? So I think if you can observe that, it gives you a sense of how that individual is, right? And you'll never find somebody perfect. The idea is whether as a team together you are perfect. And one of the guiding principles of that is that the values that are important to you, if you're somebody who wants to run your organization in certain values, कि हम long term करना चाहते हैं, or I want to have a great work culture, we want to treat people fairly, we want to have, while of course growing and earning and all that, but the other person is approaching it with the only single minded objective कि नहीं यार सिर्फ मैंने I want to earn money, right? We want to make so much revenue in the first year, second year, third year. How we get there is immaterial. I hate that line when it says by hook or by crook. When you hear that often, that I'll get that by hook or by crook, as if उस डेस्टिनेशन के लिए आप कोई भी रास्ता इख्तियार करें या कोई भी रास्ता यूज करें, in fact it does not matter. I think it's such a in this kind of world where people are looking at the final end product, I think it's a very short-sighted way of looking at everything. It's not just the end destination. it's the journey, and it's also the company. I read it somewhere recently on Life Plugin, one of the amazing companies on life transformation. So Gautam ne share kiya tha. He said it was eventually around this, that what is more important, the destination or the journey? And this other character in that cartoon says, neither. It's the company that matters. So I would say it's the company as well as the journey, both together, which are more important than just the mere destination.
Yes, and being the employee of the company and having worked with you closely and seeing you as three partners, I can attest that because I Pancham, to be honest, I saw as the fourth person as an employee that we I have three bosses, and three bosses have different temperament, different way of working together, and yet they are such good friends, and you see the chemistry even when
Sure.
they are because in the meetings I saw when you maybe did not agree with Avneet or Avneet did not agree with Sarthak, and
Right. Right.
you might
And
even
which is important.
which is
Yeah.
important, but
Which
nobody
is
take it very personally कि मीटिंग में कैसे
yeah,
बोल
yeah,
दिया आपने मुझे,
yeah, yeah.
है
Right.
ना,
Right.
आपने मीटिंग में से क्या बोल दिया मैं आई डोंट नो, आपकी हो सकता है कभी ऐसा हुआ हो एंड देन यू लर्न. अच्छा पंजाब, दैट ब्रिंग्स मी टू द नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन. Being in the partnership, were there any rules that you created which helped you come this far for 15 years? Do you have any rules in place that आपने एक दूसरे को बोल रखा हो कि ये चीज नहीं करनी है?
I think कुछ set rules नहीं है. We definitely are in agreement with the fact that we'll never do anything which will compromise our integrity. So I'm repeating that again and again. I think that is something that three of us are very clear on. कि हम कोई ऐसा काम नहीं करेंगे जिसके लिए हम शर्मिंदा हों. So I think that's a great starting point, and we didn't have to define scenarios for it. If that was the true north, that was the guiding light. At any point in time, we realized that we will choose that. And second is, I think we always wanted to keep the channels of communication open. If there is anything that one of us felt in our heart, we talked to each other and we tried not to let that linger on for way too long. There's a beautiful poem by, I think, William Blake called A Poison Tree. I highly recommend we should, anybody who's listening to this, they should read that poem. And that talks a lot about how sometimes we keep things in our heart with friends, or even with people who we are not maybe friends with at that point in time, and how something which is very small can actually end up becoming too large. तो पार्टनरशिप में तो ये तो बहुत ही जरूरी है. कुछ दिल में है, चाहे आप अच्छे टाइम से जा रहे हो, बुरे टाइम से जा रहे हो, प्रेशर हो, उसको ज्यादा देर लिंगर ऑन मत करो. डोंट शव इट अंडर द कार्पेट एज वेल. ऑफ कोर्स हैव द गुड जजमेंट टू नो कि मुझे when do I have to bring it up. If I have a sense that Sarthak or Abneet or they towards me that I am probably a little bit rattled, or maybe I'm not in the frame of mind, अब वो उनकी good judgment होगी कि they should probably time bringing up something which is going to require us all to be centered and not really in a different frequency. हम centered हो, calm हो, ताकि वो हम feedback को सुन सकें. वो judgment बड़ी जरूरी है. मुझे लगता है that timing is very important, and if you have these two things intact, then a lot of things that you read commonly in the books about management and leadership, they get automatically kind of done. For example, one thing we follow is that we try and never reprimand people in public. Yeah, that's the golden rule. You always reprimand in private, and you definitely praise them in public. So if somebody has done a good job, make sure more and more team members, people know about it. Genuinely, it should be like not fake, but it should be genuine. पर अगर किसी को डांट मारनी है तो आप उनको चुपचाप अंदर लेकर आओ और समझाओ और अच्छी तरह से उनको बताओ कि this is how it is.
I think
So I think,
I'm able to paraphrase what you've just said. Just to sum it up, just let me know if you agree. I think the moment you're in a business partnership, three people start the business. Once the trust is there, you share the value system. From business partnership, it's a relationship now, and the same rules that apply to in the relationship apply. Same rules apply to a business partnership turned into relationship now. One thing I've learned, Pancham, it's a very basic rule that I learned about my relationships is once you commit to a relationship, there should be no exit door. There is no exit door.
mhm.
The problem only comes when you think there is an exit door. I mean, I
Yeah,
have an opportunity. I mean, when I know that we are on the same page regarding, I want to put my 100%. I want to invest in this. Just closing that back door.
mhm.
The idea of exit from a relationship. The moment you which means you're committed. Now you know that this person, I trust this person, he or she loves me, and the trust is there. Now there's no exiting from here. I have to make it work. I'll do anything and everything that takes to be in the relationship and make it work and be happy about it.
Right.
Problem hoti hai the moment we think, yeah, for example, in relationships with husband and wife, one partner might think that I can get divorced, maybe मुझे और कोई मिल जाएगा या मुझे कोई मिल जाएगी. The moment you have that thought in your mind, या फिर
Right.
अगर पापा मम्मी से झगड़ा हुआ है कि मैं पापा से बात नहीं करूंगा या मैं घर छोड़ के चला जाऊंगा, द मोमेंट यू हैव एग्जिट डोर इन योर माइंड कि यार इससे मैं निकल सकता हूँ, आप
Right.
it pushes you into a negative spiral of doing stupid
Easier
things,
now.
will further weaken that relationship, and you will eventually go in that direction and you'll regret it all your life. Relationship, at the end of the day, what I've learned, Pancham, from at the end of the day, about happiness, it's all about the relationships we have, be
Right.
our friends, be our family, our parents, our kids. That's because these people, with them, we create the moments. And now you're in a relationship with your partners, you have friends. The moments you
Right.
create with them, this is what you take with you,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Oh,
So
absolutely.
which is what I have
Absolutely.
learned. So when I think I am committed to a relationship, I give 100%. There's no exit door. I
Yeah.
have to make it work. But if I think no, for example, this partnership I knew it is never going to happen beautifully. I have to end it now, or it'll be even
Everything.
probably after, if I do it after 5 years. I took the decision. I'm going out.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what I want to say, that while you commit to it wholeheartedly and you want to give your 100% and all the partners are doing that, but at the same time, if it is becoming dysfunctional, just
Yeah.
like with any romantic relationship, ki dysfunctional, like one-sided, you're getting taken for granted, or there are a lot of, they'll, instead of beautiful memories and building something together, 80% of the times you're just fighting and there's, you're not moving forward. Perhaps it's a good time to then, rejig everything and look at moving out. So as long as it is not a dysfunctional relationship, yes, give it your 100%. But whenever you think it is becoming that, I think it's a wise thing to kind of move on and apply your time and mind somewhere else. And you never know. Maybe there are greater things that are waiting to happen.
I see Punjab more because I have friends who ask me when they have a dysfunctional relationship at home, especially with parents. They have always have an entry at the exit door in mind कि यार मैं ना घर छोड़ के चला जाऊंगा, मैं बाहर रहूंगा, मैं घर पे रहता हूँ, स्यापी हूँ, इन लोगों ने सुधरना नहीं है, इन लोगों ने मुझे because मुझे लगता है I tell them यार कि your parents, your brother, your sister, you have to, अब ऐसा नहीं कर सकते कि बात नहीं करना, एक साल तक बात नहीं कर रहे हैं या सीधे मुंह आप बात नहीं कर रहे हो, ठीक है.
Right.
That means आपका जिस approach, doesn't matter what other person is doing, doesn't matter, you love that person, he or she is your brother,
Right.
sister, your papa,
Right.
mummy, गुस्सा कर दिया, उसमें exit कोई नहीं है. You can never get out of relationship. A husband and wife cannot get, especially after they have kids, they cannot get out of the relationship. So there's no exit in such relationships. I'm sorry, I'm digressing, but I think same dynamics से apply हो
Yeah.
जाता
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल एब्सोल्युटली यार, मतलब लाइक आई सेड राइट, इन योर पर्सनल लाइफ इन योर प्रोफेशनल लाइफ दोनों अलग नहीं है, दे आर द सेम
है.
थिंग. हाउ यू अप्रोच योर पर्सनल लाइफ इज एग्जैक्टली हाउ यू शुड बी अप्रोचिंग योर प्रोफेशन. वो आपका पहलू वहां दिखेगा, आप उसको अलग नहीं कर सकते कि मैं यहाँ पे अगर सिंसियर हूँ तो मैं यहाँ पे
Yeah.
कंटेंट चला दूंगा, राइट. Absolutely, the same rules apply, and I think eventually it's all about working yourself. Yeah, this entire journey, whether whatever profession you are in, whatever business you run, आप देखा जाए तो बियॉन्ड कितना फोकस, देखो जब भी कोई काम शुरू करता है, फोकस इज सो मच अबाउट अर्निंग मनी. It's very monetarily driven, or it's very ego driven, that I'll make so much revenue, people will know me, or I'll earn this big house or a car. I think ये हमें तब इम्पोर्टेंट होते हैं डिपेंडिंग ऑन अगेन हम कहाँ लाइफ में हैं और हमारे खुद हम किस चीज को ढूंढ रहे हैं. और बट अगर हम इससे थोड़ा परे जाएं, and if you look at really the deeper values and morals that are there in scriptures, and you rely and you approach your craft with that sincerity, that I'm of course going to make money, I'm making money, but I'm going to do it in a way where I'm actually affecting change. I will be a torch bearer of a great work culture where people will think that working in a corporate or a company is like a donkey's work, right? You enjoy, you look forward to Monday. Those memes of Monday do not apply to me because I enjoy going to that workplace, right? तो ये तभी पॉसिबल है जब आप, मुझे लगता है कि आप वो वैल्यू सिस्टम्स के साथ में अपने आप को कंडक्ट करते हो और आप इसको थॉट है। आई एम स्लाइटली, while I'm in a business, I also feel that I'm not overly capitalistic. I think I feel that if you focus on a lot of value, delivering value to whoever you're committing to, whether your partners, your employees, or your customers and vendors, वो अगर आपका first leading important value है, right? And rest everything is afterwards. That how do I add more value to these people? Then things are sorted. Then you are really approaching it with the right angle, right view. वो बाकी चीजें मुझे लगती हैं फिर इजी हो जाती हैं। लेकिन जब हम उल्टा बना लेते हैं, वी लुक एट द प्रोडक्ट्स ऑफ सक्सेसफुल एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप एज द इवेंचुअल गोल, I don't think that's really a very happy, satisfied life. Yeah, then you'll be 60 and 70, made a lot of money, and you'll be looking at them owning a farm and moving out of, because you're so burnt out, and you think that नहीं यार ये नहीं था, मैं कुछ और कर रहा था। मुझे लगता है कि हम अपनी, while we're in our 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever time frame we are in, the way we conduct our business can also be so beautiful. Yeah, where we are, while we're earning money, we can actually do all these other things. We don't, तृष्णा क्यों है कि ये छोड़ेंगे जाएंगे तभी हम कुछ कर पाएंगे, राइट? इन सारी चीजों को लेके इकट्ठा हम अपने आप को करेंगे, और वही कंपनीज एंड वही रिलेशनशिप्स एंड ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस वाकई ही काम करती हैं, और वो यूजुअली अंडर द रेडार होती हैं. दे आर नॉट नेसेसरली काइंड ऑफ थंपिंग देयर चेस्ट एंड डूइंग अ होल लॉट ऑफ मार्केटिंग, डूइंग देयर ओन प्रेस. वो कर रहे हैं, वो काम अपना कर रहे हैं. जैसे मैंने लास्ट टाइम में पिछली बार एग्जांपल दिया था अबाउट नारायण मूर्ति एंड किंगफिशर गाय, राइट? तो उन लोगों की जो लाइफ जिस तरह से कंडक्ट हुई है इज अ क्लासिक एग्जांपल ऑफ हाउ वन कैन गो अबाउट देयर लाइव्स. एंड अगेन वो किस तरह के लोग हैं, उनके लिए क्या इंपॉर्टेंट है, दैट हैज डिटरमिन्ड हाउ हैज देयर चाइल्डहुड बीन, व्हाट थिंग्स आर इंपॉर्टेंट टू देम. उस हिसाब से उन्होंने वो स्टेप्स लिए हैं. कैसे लेवरेज कर सकते हैं, लेवरेज इज सच अ वेरी कॉमन वर्ड यूज्ड, राइट? इतनी बड़ी बड़ी कंपनी, हजारों करोड़ों रुपए की उनकी टर्नओवर होती है, एंड यू लुक एट इट, दे आर नॉट इवन प्रॉफिटेबल. And the only thing that they're doing is that they're sometimes just rotating money. They're getting, इतना land है उसके ऊपर आप देख रहे हो वो चले जा रहा है, and the owners are just enjoying and having fun. I'm not saying all of them are like that, but there is a huge chunk of, and if people or entrepreneurs keep these people on a pedestal and think कि हमने ये बनना है, मेरे को लगता है कि वो थोड़ा सा और discretion चाहिए. You need a little bit more, better. The role models that we make in our society in India, they need to be better role models.
I agree. I I mean, we all have seen those bitter millionaires around us, people who have made a lot of money, they have big houses, but when you talk to them, they are nice to you, but you know that in their life they are very resentful of things. उसने मुझे ऐसे बोल दिया, मैं सबके लिए इतना करता हूँ, लोग मेरे साथ ऐसे करते हैं, मेरे बच्चों ने मुझे छोड़ दिया, ऐसा हो गया वैसा. बिकॉज यू आर ऑलवेज सीइंग एवरीथिंग आउटवर्ड, यू नॉट सीइंग कि आपने इनवर्ड कि लोगों ने आपके साथ क्या कहा, बट नॉट सीइंग आउटवर्ड कि आपने कैसे किया, हाउ डिड यू लिव योर लाइफ, हाउ डिड यू लिव योर बिजनेस, हाउ डिड यू ट्रीट द पीपल. नाउ मे बी यू इन योर 60s, they've made lot of money, बट आप कह यार आई कैन नॉट ट्रस्ट एनीवन, यार दुनिया सब धोखा दे देती है, जितना मर्जी करो, रिश्तेदार सारे बहुत बुरे होते हैं, कोई काम नहीं आता. आप रिजेंटफुल हो, आपको लगता है कि सब लोग बुरे हैं, एंड यू डाई एन अनहैप्पी पर्सन. मुझे लगता है आई लिव इन अ वेरी अगली वर्ल्ड, आई हैव टू, मुझे सबसे बच के रहना है. You become insecure as a person. So I that's definitely one place I don't want to be when I get old.
हाँ, एब्सोल्युटली. और उसके लिए हमें कहीं आश्रम जाने की जरूरत नहीं है. हम आश्रम जाएं, रोज जाएं, जो भी हमारा स्पिरिचुअल प्रैक्टिस है, whether we are listening to great people, scriptures, whatever we believe in, I think this is the right time to feed from those lessons and those great people and their teachings, and apply and fuel ourselves up from the inside. And then जो भी हमारे लाइफ का पैशन लग रहा है, अगर आज मैंने कोई एजेंसी शुरू करनी है, या मैं कोई एनजीओ शुरू करना चाहता हूँ, या whatever I want to pursue a sport, do that then full heartedly. अगर आपका स्पिरिचुअल इंजन मुझे लगता है खोखला है, तो ये सारी प्रॉब्लम्स आने लगे. और आप अगर अपने आप को you don't think that you're work in progress. We're all work in progress. We're all trying to get better as people. Once I think we realize that probably on the inside we are perfect, but we want to realize that perfectness because हमारे ऊपर इतनी layers लगी हुई हैं from our conditioning to things that have happened. Try and remove that, but उसके लिए काम करना पड़ता है. पर अगर हम मुझे लगता है कि वो foundation बहुत जरूरी है. So I think for me those are the heroes. Yeah. I naturally get attracted to those people. So for me also, entrepreneurship point of view, say a business point of view, say I'd rather look up to somebody who has their financial, their business, their influence, their personal relationships, their physical health, their contribution to society, all of these in good balance. हम लोग क्या करते हैं, हम फॉर एग्जांपल स्टीव जॉब्स को बोल देंगे वो अमेजिंग है, एप्पल प्रोडक्ट्स अनडाउटेडली राइट, but he was so monomaniacally focused only on that. Can I say that he was a success in his personal relationships? Maybe not, right? He's a great example for, if you look at his, all the books and what people say about him, right? He's a great entrepreneur, absolutely fantastic in that regard. But in the other areas, perhaps not. And that doesn't really attract me. I'd rather look at some certain examples, and there are many examples of people who you look at and say, huh? Yeah, key examples where they made so much money, but they've done it in such a crooked way that they're caught up in legal hassles, or their health has gone for a toss. They put on so much weight, or even if they haven't put on weight, there's so much mental stress, and you realize कि नहीं यार ये क्या लाइफ है यार, इतने ऐसे पैसे कमा के फायदा भी क्या हुआ. मैं पैसे कम कमा लो, अपनी लाइफ को थोड़ा सिंप्लीफाई कर लो, स्टार्ट लिविंग मिनिमलिस्टिकली, राइट? यू कैन स्टिल हैव मोर मैसिव इम्पैक्ट ऑन वर्ल्ड. More whole idea is by the time we leave, we become better as people, we understand ourselves, and also maybe leave back some people or this world better than how we found it. I think that if I feel I can do, मैं अपने आप को मानूंगा कि I think I would say कि I've done a fairly good job. Not only लुक एट कि क्यू ब्लॉक्स में आज हम एक्स रेवेन्यू है, हमारे एक साल के अंदर इतने करोड़ का रेवेन्यू है, अगर मैं इसको मल्टीप्लाई बाय 3 कर दूंगा 2 साल में या 1 साल के अंदर, बट हाउ हैज दैट transpired, how have I actually achieved that will be important. So that's what I believe in.
This reminds me of my discussion with you, Pancham, when I handed over my resignation to you when I left Q Blocks. You asked me, why do you want to leave the job? So I did not have any valid reason. One reason I did not tell you, Pancham, I'm telling you now, is because I felt I'm getting spoiled in the company. The environment is so good. I'm getting so comfortable working here. And that was one reason. The second reason was that I told you, and which was a bigger reason. I told you, Pancham, I think there's so much more I can do. I think there's so much more we can do, and as a company, and we are not doing it. So I want to do it myself, start my own business, and try whether I can do it. And you were very encouraging. You said, and you exactly said the same thing. So this is why I think you were very self-aware from the very starting. It's not a recent thought you're sharing now, because you told me, Pulkit, this is the pace we are comfortable with as a company. This is how fast we want to grow. Okay? We don't want to go faster, and we don't want to achieve our goals in shorter time. Like I was suggesting that we can close more projects, because at that time, remember I did that Holy Grail article, and I thought I can write so much more, I can get so many clients in, and I was not able to understand why are we stopping ourselves. Again, I as I now I get the idea, and I did respect you for the answer you gave me, that this is the speed we are happy with. If you want to go faster, try it yourself.
Sure.
We don't want to go faster, which makes a lot of sense. Right. And just knowing, having that awareness, Pancham, and I know for a fact that why you said that, because this is not just a business for you. Your life goes hand in hand with the business, and if you go too fast, you make some mistakes, or maybe you make too much money, you grow too fast, and someone gets behind. I mean, you pay the cost, and which I don't know how to say that, but I do understand why you said that. I mean, and it makes a lot of sense now, because it's 15 years now, Pancham. 15 years is a long time. I mean, anyone who's is starting a business now, they make the wrong decisions because they want to make their business profitable and become a millionaire, drive a Ferrari in year, maybe 6 months. There's stories on internet. I teach students how to close projects, how to run the agency from the experience I had running Ala Fashion Retail. And I get comments on my YouTube videos, Pulkit, how come you're only making 1.5 lakh or 1 lakh rupees when you, because I share how I तो billing पता चल जाती है उनको, how much I'm billing, profitable में profitability कितनी है. It's not, I'm not making a lot of money, and I'm not claiming that I'm a millionaire, but
Right.
वो कहते हैं how you in the business for such a long time doesn't make sense. You're only making 1.5 lakh rupees. What kind of business is this? And I don't understand. 1.5 lakh rupees is still a lot of money. A lot of people out there not making 1 lakh rupees. A lot of people are not making 50,000 rupees, and they don't have that freedom. So people have very wrong expectation that they get themselves into a business, which is why the business fail, because they want to make money too soon.
What
वो problem हो
absolutely.
जाती है.
What also I'd like to just say one more thing, Pulkit, is that there was a stage when we guys were starting out, or shayad abhi bhi hai, where the darlings of the entrepreneurial world were those companies which were either acquired or exited. Usually an entrepreneur का ये होता है कि मुझे कोई बड़ी company acquire कर लेगी, I'll get 50 crores, whatever 100 crores that'll come into, and I'll make that, and that used to be a lot of big goal, or I'll go public in some years, and then life becomes easy, etc., etc. And I think there was also sometimes that thought that people, in fact, some entrepreneurs would look down upon and say that you're this is a lifestyle business for you, right? तो अगर जो मैं बात कर रहा हूँ आपके साथ, तो वे either you go big or you go bust. So that was the thing, आपने करना है तो बड़ी चीज करो. मतलब imagine that was the the focal point, and that is what all industry meetings used to be. And I question, what about those guys who got just 5 people, 10 people? Are they not committing, or they not contributing to the society? Or maybe just an entrepreneur who's just single, right? But he or she is making some great content and is able to be of service, right? तो एक realization आती है जब आप you become independent of the good or bad opinion of other people. When you reach that stage where you realize, what, this is what I'm doing, and I'm happy with it, and I'm not comparing myself with everybody, because ये अपनी journey है, हर एक का अपना life का कोई ना कोई. और जब मैं industry meetings में जाता हूँ, it's not about seeing who's got the bigger package, right? It's so bizarre when that is the only barometer of success. What is the revenue of your company? If my revenue is 1 crore, for example, just a hypothetical number, somebody's got, making 20 crores, right? And is the 20 crore guy more successful? पहली बात, success की definition क्या है? अगर आपकी success की definition सिर्फ ये है कि revenue कितना कमाया है, आप कितने आपका, then perhaps from that point of view, 20 crore guy may be more successful, or 200 crore, whatever the number may be. But if the success की definition is very different, that for me, success, life will be successful if I'm able to do these multiple things, and I'm able to do all of them together as much as possible. And for me, that will be fine. And I'm still happy inside, and I'm content inside. Right? Then you're sorted. Yeah? Then I think you're good. But the overall industry is made in such a way where we look at these big Ambanis and great companies which are there, many other big companies, and make that as the sole goal. I think that time needs to change. Yeah? There's an undercurrent, and क्योंकि उस तृष्णा के पीछे भागते हुए ना, a lot of companies do, a lot of entrepreneurs end up doing a lot of things. There are great articles where people have actually, entrepreneurs who are getting acquired, they've shared how those 3, 4, 5 years were, where they worked really, really hard. Their relationships went for a toss, and eventually उनको health का ये issue हो गया, वो हो गया. मुझे लगता है कि अगर आपको कोई ऐसा ड्राइव कर रहा है, कोई पैशन ड्राइव कर रहा है, टेक इट अलोंग, डू ऑल द हार्ड वर्क हर एक ने करना है, but don't do it at the cost of other things, and learn from the experience of other people who have told you that at the age of 50 you'll wake up, or at the age of 60 you'll wake up, यार सारा काम तो मैंने बिजनेस में लगा दिया, एंड देन मैंने अपने बच्चों को टाइम नहीं दिया और बच्चे बड़े हो गए, या मैंने अपने पार्टनर को टाइम नहीं दिया, या पेरेंट्स को टाइम नहीं दिया, हेल्थ को टाइम नहीं दिया, या मैंने अपनी कम्युनिटी को टाइम नहीं दिया. और तब तक आप इतने बिटर, और आपके सोचने का तरीका इतना ज्यादा हार्डवायर्ड हो जाता है that it's very difficult to change them. So I think that is also very important, and I think for anybody who's looking at starting an entrepreneurial journey, ये जो आपने बिल्कुल ठीक बात बोली, that if you think that from the get go you're going to start making money and I'll have that big car, usually that takes time, okay? And usually जब entrepreneurship शुरू करते हैं तो कैलकुलेशन ये होती है कि ओके आई वर्क फॉर सो लॉन्ग, दिस इज द सैलरी आई एम मेकिंग, आई एम डूइंग मोस्ट ऑफ द वर्क, नाउ इफ आई वर टू स्टार्ट माय ओन कंपनी, मुझे इससे ज्यादा मिल जाएगा क्योंकि मेरे में ही ये सारे स्किल्स हैं, पर असल में ऐसा होता नहीं है, right? Because the moment you start your business, then what happens with other expenses? You'll end up taking a rented space, loge, yeah, your entire opinion changes.
Okay.
Anytime you get payments, rather than thinking about yourself, you start putting into the company. That is exactly what happened with us. Within a few months, our company was making money, but our salaries from our whatever money as directors we were making individually, हमें 3 साल लग गए हमारी सैलरी लेवल तक पहुंचने के लिए। जो हमारी पिछले जॉब की सैलरी थी वहां तक पहुंचने के लिए 3 साल लगे। क्यों? वॉज द बिजनेस नॉट मेकिंग मनी? नो, द कंपनी वॉज मेकिंग मनी, बट क्या होता है, आप में शिफ्ट होने लग जाता है व्हेन यू थिंकिंग लॉन्ग टर्म, then the idea is what can I get a better system, can I get better chairs for my team, can I make the environment better, right? What else can I give in the infrastructure? There comes a shift, and instead of trying to just look at मैं अपना ही पैसा बनाते रहूं, आप ऐसा सोचने लग जाते हैं। ये भी एक बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग शिफ्ट आता है। आई एम नॉट श्योर सबके लिए आता नहीं आता, बट ये यूजुअली देखा जाता है।
Pancham, just reminds me of one thing. I just want to ask you because my first, when I heard about Q Blocks for the first time, the way the news about Q Blocks reached me is I don't know who at Red Alchemy. I think at Red Alchemy, someone told me, "Okay, do you know there's a company who gives iPods on as Christmas gifts?" Did that ever happen?
Yeah. But then what happened? We managed to do it when we were a small team.
Okay.
So when you're a team of about 50 people and you do the math, it becomes sometimes difficult. जब हम छोटी टीम थे, we did it a couple of times and it felt really nice.
Yeah.
And then later on we were compensating in other ways. Yeah. So that one thing happened. Yeah, it happened a couple of times. Yeah, but not beyond that.
Yeah, and going back to, I just like to make a small confession because many of my students who are listening to me right now, a lot of people ask me, Pulkit, your trainings are so good. Why have you stopped the agency training? Why have you stopped charging for it? I made all my videos on YouTube, and it was very profitable for me, Pancham. I was running my agency, Ala Fashion Retail, and learning and sharing that knowledge with people, packaging it. And I was charging, I was charging 32,000 rupees for a course. So it was quite profitable. But what happened is when I was talking to people, I felt a lot of students who are joining the program or a lot of people who are looking at my ads are joining with the wrong expectations, wasn't making me happy. And especially they was getting retargeted by other people who were selling very similar agency trainings, who are making claims or who are showing people snapshots of their PayPal account. Look at my account getting $2,000 payment, $5,000 payment, $10,000 payment. And I'm suddenly driving a Lamborghini. Look at all the cars I own from my agency business. I only work for 2 hours. I outsource everything. There's no work. It's so easy. And people watch those videos and join my course. And I'm asking them to do all the hard work, learn writing, learn the communication, do all the work. And they're not happy. They're saying, Pulkit, you have to tell me, how do I make money? So especially watching those videos, I felt I cannot charge for this. I mean, people want to they're not happy, they're not making any money, they don't have job, and then they are asking me, Pulkit, how come you're making 1.5 lakh rupees per month profit, and these people are making so much money? This has to be something wrong. You're either lying, you're this. So I thought, okay, I want to help people. I want to share my learning, but I have to stop charging for this because I cannot charge someone money who comes with this mindset of driving because what happens after you get that PayPal payment of $5,000 in your account? You have to service that client. You have to provide them service. You have to retain that client, you have to work out of your skin to retain that client. It's a lot of hard work. Digital marketing services, Pancham. I mean, you've been in the industry longer than I am, providing digital marketing services. It's very hard to retain a client. Doesn't matter how good your skill set. Giving them results, retaining a client takes a lot of hard work. It's still easy with technology. When they pay you for a website, you deliver it. But when you're providing them an SEO service, especially when you're promising result and you want to really give them result, you have to work out of your skin to give them those results. It's not easy. It's not that you get the project in, you outsource it to someone on Upwork, and you just go on vacation on a beach and just have a good time.
आई थिंक वो शॉर्टकट लाइफ में मांगना ही मुझे लगता है कि एक बड़ी छोटी सोच है, क्योंकि असल में देयर आर वेरी फ्यू एग्जांपल्स ऑफ समबडी हु जस्ट डजंट रियली हैव टू डू एनीथिंग एंड you know these are all hooks as well, right? When somebody says I'm buying a Lamborghini, okay, then every student of yours should be able to do it. Obviously he's put in a lot of effort, etc., and that's the hook that is used to show people that you can do the same thing as well. But for a student to expect कि यार बिना मेहनत किए मेरे सिक्स पैक्स आ जाएंगे, बिना मेहनत किए मैं अल्ट्रा मैराथन रन कर लूंगा, बिना मेहनत किए मैं एक अच्छा ओरेटर बन जाऊंगा, या बिना मेहनत किए मैं अपनी स्पिरिचुअली ग्रोथ कर पाऊंगा, मेडिटेशन पे एक लेवल पे पहुंच पाऊंगा, वो पॉसिबल नहीं है। मेहनत तो करनी पड़ेगी। तो वो वही बात है यार, अगेन डिपेंड्स ऑन, आई समटाइम्स हैव द सेम एग्जांपल with the company as well, right? I don't understand the whole idea of trying to look at only the revenue. I think for me the new parameter is what is the influence that you're making. What is your purpose as an organization? Are you fulfilling that purpose? Are you affecting change, right? अगर आपके पास में 4 clients हैं and को अच्छी तरह से सर्विस कर रहे हो, and you keep in mind that when we're working from India, one of the big things for us in Qblocks is that we are also doing it from nationalistic standpoint. Whether our office is in Czech Republic or in India, we think that any time anybody from around the world interacts with Qblocks, we are representing India as well, and we are representing the Czech Republic, and they should feel. Jo, unfortunately, India being a very large country, and a lot of people got into IT, so there's been a mixed bag of experiences people have. People started associating India with outsourcing work, cheaper labor, right? But I think the moment our thought has also been that we want to give them service in such a way, और वो तभी कर पाओगे जब आपके पास में fundamentally आप correct होगे. You approach everything with the right intent and you're giving value. If you do that, then the customer should end up feeling what these guys could charge maybe twice the amount of money. I'm really happy because the delivery is so great. Then that's a win. Then not only have you made money yourself, which is an important thing, okay, but at the same time you have done justice to your skills. Your team is happy because they've made a great product. You've been able to maintain that balance and not really give them so much work कि वो deliver ही नहीं कर पा रहे हैं क्योंकि आपने लालच में इतने clients को हाँ कह दिया है. And then in the end, these customers from all over the world, whether from Japan, from Russia, from New Zealand, from US, Canada, Europe, wherever, they work with us and they realize, they feel, oh wow, there are great agencies in India as well, right? So a lot of those stereotypes about the Indian stretchable time, the quality, haggling for pricing, I personally hate that. I personally hate stereotypes overall for anybody. एंड आई फील दैट whenever we approach our work, तो वो भी एक इंटेंट होता है, छोटा इंटेंट होता है, पर वो इंटेंट होता है कि यार लोगों को बोलेंगे कि नहीं, बहुत बेहतरीन अच्छा काम यहाँ पे भी होता है.
I know. I
And I'm
have.
not saying we've arrived there. It's always work in progress. Yeah. We are still getting better. We do make mistakes, but the idea is, the intent is, okay, we keep getting better and better, and not forget our true north star, is what is guiding us.
Pancham, I've seen companies who give their employees English names and they give
Yeah,
them
yeah,
voice and accent training. You say R, you say P.
yeah, yeah.
What it does best is it gives a big identity crisis to your employee, and he goes away from his roots to the person he is, and then it's a very bad direction you can give your people. I've worked in call centers. There they gave me a name. I was named as Rotting. I was
Yeah.
expected to use accent, and I never said that I'm in India. But that is still makes sense because it was a
Right.
call center. It was an international call center. Those customers did not want to talk to someone in
Also,
India. It made sense. But in web development companies, when you're providing services, when you want to build a relationship, it doesn't make sense to hide that identity, which is again something I learned from working with you. I mean, all companies do tell where they are, but I do remember few instances when I was new in the company. I was showing my ninja sales techniques in the call with you.
right.
And when a client asks you a question such as, Pulkit, how big is your company? And I think I
Right.
was on the call with you, and I said, we are big. We're a big team of 30, 35 people. So I said that we are. The number was accurate. I did not lie there, but I used the word big. and you held my hand and you give me slow down. And I was wondering why. Let me just close the deal. I can do it because I thought I had the client. And after the call, you gave me very general feedback. Okay, just try to be more aware of the words you use. We don't want to say anything which is not accurate. We are not a big company. Don't say that. And from there, I got what you're saying, that we have to be authentic. I was honest, but I wasn't being authentic. And in the sales, I have learned, because I've learned from people who do a lot of hard selling, who would say that we have worked with NASA, and I've worked with people who just say what how things are. This is what we are, and if you like what you see, let's work together. If you don't like what you see, it's a feedback for us. We will improve,
Yeah,
but we're
absolutely.
not lying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
पर वही देखना है कि कहाँ कहाँ पे आपके लिए जो आपकी लाइफ में आप स्टेज पे हो and how you are as a person, what vibes with you? You know, you normally get gravitated to that really, and each learning is important, right? And I'm you know, for example, like the way you're sharing, it's important that, you know, maybe if there was somebody else who was sitting there, maybe he or she would not have noticed this जो आपने खुद notice किया और आपने, you know, उस चीज को imbibe किया, तो वो आपके में already एक, you know, there was something which was there in you already. Just to share with you, Pulkit, I remember when I was getting into sales, I never liked sales because sales has always been demonized in terms of these guys are really pushy. वो चिपका देते हैं जो मर्जी चिपकाना हो, right? They're good with talking people into doing things because the general impression that people have of sales people are, you know, your door-to-door salesmen who are doing product selling. बोलते रहेंगे बोलते रहेंगे बोलते रहेंगे, आपको कॉर्नर करने की कोशिश करेंगे, कमिट करने की कोशिश करेंगे अलग अलग टेक्निक्स के थ्रू एक्सेट्रा. I never liked that because I felt that is, you know, that's not how I want to really kind of, I never kind of felt that that's how I am as a person because I think I'm fairly straightforward and honest, and I don't like to put people in a spot where they need to be uncomfortable. And then I started reading, and I read Zig Ziglar and I read Business School, Relationships के ऊपर, and all of these experts saying कि यार जो techniques है बोलना वो सारी चीजें ठीक हैं, closing, art of closing, and all that is important. But the primary motive is that you need to be somebody who's very empathetic. And services sale and product sales are very different. So if you're doing product sale, if you're selling a Lamborghini in a showroom, you could be having all the wrong techniques. Maybe you're a person that nobody maybe really likes in a way, but the end customer will still buy the product because Lamborghini hai wo, ya jo bhi car hai, XYZ car hai, because they know that they won't be interacting with you as a person. But when you're doing services sale, there is no end product, right? The end user says that this is the person I will be dealing with day in and day out, or I will be basically interacting via them. And that person represents the company and the company culture. Right? So there, if you are more genuine, right, and you are able to kind of use the techniques of correct communication, but while keeping all those basic things intact, and you realize that you're, I love what Zig Ziglar said, that any good salesperson would also have a very good sense of timing, जो कि मेरे डोर टू डोर सेल्समैन को देखते हुए it was totally opposite how they conducted themselves. They would not look at timing at all. They will push you, push you, push you, right? They said a good salesperson would even sometimes tell you that, yeah, you don't really need this product. मतलब वो आप उनको, if today somebody is a salesperson and works somewhere and the person is almost about to buy and you say, you know what, you're right, I don't think you really need it at this point in time, उसका जो senior होगा will fire him immediately, right? Maybe that person is, and imagine if that person is genuinely doing it, maybe that client will remember or that customer will remember that this is one guy who could, you know, close that deal, but perhaps he was not being very, or she was not being extremely pushy. Services sale hai, which is the kind of work that we are in an agency. We are dealing with owners of companies, startups, entrepreneurs themselves, or people who are 30, 40, 50, 60 years old. Who, they can see through stuff, a lot of stuff. So they in fact want, you're physically not present there, you're in a different country. There's so much stereotype around working in remote places. And on top of it, if you're not genuine, if you're not, you know, and you can't fake that, by the way, you know, and if you're not truly, you know, being correct and honest, then you will attract a certain kind of customers. You will end up getting
Yeah,
into those.
I agree.
आपको मिल जाएंगे ऐसे clients, पर वो भी आपसे वो expect करेंगे कि रात को 12 बजे 2 बजे call कर देंगे. You can't set boundaries really, right? So
हाँ,
the way for example, in wait.
yeah. नहीं, please go on.
So वही है कि मिल जाते हैं, ऐसा काम मिल जाता है, ऐसा नहीं है कि आप सेल्स नहीं, but then it comes with its own baggage.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, फिर clients जो आएंगे ना, वो आपसे कहेंगे, अच्छा आप काम कर लिया ना, पेमेंट मैं आपको बाद में दूंगा, एक
हाँ
महीने के बाद
हाँ
दूंगा.
exactly,
तो पेमेंट के टाइम पे
right.
कहेंगे, मैं आपको ना, मैं अगले 50% ले लो, ये बाकी अगले हो गए. You'll attract bad clients, especially if you
Yeah,
try to outsmart clients. You're not authentic. Client will also
absolutely.
try to be inauthentic with you, and
Yeah,
maybe
yeah,
you just attract wrong clients. And Pancham, I, which is why I always feel meeting you was very transformative for me, is because I learned, sorry for my language, but I learned I don't have to be an asshole to do good in life, be it sales or be it anything. Because what I learned when I got into the real world, I saw smart people who were outsmarting me, and I saw these this smarter outsmarting people setting the examples that यार उसको जो कितना ज़्यादा सही है चालाक है यार वो उससे business निकाल लिया, and that's how you do it. And you see all these people, and these people getting the promotions, getting all the acknowledgement, and as you, sir, and you in your heart you know that I'm not that kind of person, that doesn't work for me, and you try to pretend to be that smart, and कि मैं ऐसा कर लेता हूँ वैसा कर लेता हूँ. And when I worked with you, I saw that I want to be like Pancham, and I feel that this makes sense. And this company Pancham is appreciating that character in me, and which is why it was very easy for me to shift that gear immediately and be that person that you could work with, because it
Right.
was that person I wanted to be actually.
Totally.
That so
And
and
we have to talk about this because if from your audience who's listening, these are if people passing out of college, etc., in the initial years of their career. Sometimes they may get into their first job where that environment is such that it was a campus placement. Unfortunately, if they get into a company where there is a lot of psychophancy, there's a lot of politics, etc. Right? There is genuinely politics. Like you're not the one causing it, but अगर असल में वैसा है कि बहुत लोग कह रहे हैं कि यार यहाँ पे ऐसे ही चलता है कि आप अपने तो या तो निकल जाओ वहां से, ठीक है? Before it really corrupts you. And don't use that one or two initial jobs as a sample size to define everything कि इसी तरीके से corporate world में आप grow करोगे, because वो सबसे बड़ी गलती है. वो sample size कितना छोटा है यार आपका, 5 साल का अगर आपको experience है, 2 कंपनियों में आपने काम किया है, unfortunately वो 2 कंपनी ऐसी हैं जहाँ पे आपने maybe the environment is such and you start thinking कि नहीं यही तरीका है, तो आप imagine करो आप जो अपने awake time के अंदर जो 80% टाइम है जो आप एक कंपनी में काम कर रहे हो, आप ऐसे values से conduct कर रहे हो which are totally making you a very, very unauthentic human being. Right? So, how will that change you as a human being? Imagine how will it change you as a partner with somebody in the future? आप वही चीज क्योंकि आप डे इन एंड डे आउट वो कर रहे हो, वही तरकीब में सोच रहे हो, अच्छा rather than thinking of all those deep value things and thinking of adding value, becoming better as people, making an impact, हक की कमाई खा रहे हो, अपने आप ग्रो कर रहे हो, अपने आप को रीस्किल कर रहे हो, learning from people, surrounding yourself with people who are of same values or different values as well, but they're kind of making you better and growing in that process, right? I think that, and if you're stuck somewhere like that, then have the audacity to say that I'm not going to be following the herd यार कि मैं यहीं पे जाऊंगा. अगर आपको वहां पे आपका अंदर से फीलिंग आ रही है कि यार ये मुझे बिल्कुल ठीक नहीं लग रहा है, look for something else. I'm sure there will be another company, yeah, maybe a smaller company, maybe it may not be the big multinationals, etc. उसके लिए फिर आपको प्राइस थोड़ा पे करना पड़ेगा. Maybe they'll give you a little bit lesser stipend, but at least in the heart of heart, if you are that kind of a person, then आपको वो values के साथ compromise नहीं करना पड़ेगा. क्योंकि eventually, after those 5-10 years, as you grow, you realize that you cannot be an asshole and try and kind of fool everybody. People see through it. आप अपने दोस्तों में भी देख लोगे, जो लोग आपके दोस्त हैं बहुत चतुर चालाक हैं, गलत हैं, सोचते रहते हैं, आपको पता लग जाता है यार. And I think you don't want to be like that, right? And we underestimate the importance of these 8 to 10 hours that we spend in the working professional life and what influence it can have on you. And there are a lot of good companies are out there. So बस वही होता है कि it is inconvenient अगर आपका already कहीं पे आ गया है. अगर आप ऐसी जगह में फंस गए हो और आपको पैसा चाहिए चाहिए क्योंकि आप अपने घर में दे रहे हो या आपके कुछ खर्चे हैं, please for heaven's sake understand this that these things that you're learning in such organizations are not what will take you far. If you're stuck there, try and isolate yourself from becoming that kind of a person. How can you isolate yourself? Then listen to podcasts, read some good books, right? And then try and maybe look for a change at some point in time. वो एक्सपीरियंस आपको जरूर काम आएगा बाद में पर
I agree to what you just said. The worst way to make bad decisions in life is to generalize things कि सारी कंपनीज ऐसी होती हैं, सारी औरतें ऐसी होती हैं, सारे आदमी ऐसे होते हैं, सारे हिंदू ऐसे होते हैं, सारे मुसलमान ऐसे होते हैं, सारे पाकिस्तानी ऐसे होते हैं, हम इंडियंस ऐसे होते हैं. The best way to misunderstand a company, anything, is to generalize it. ये सारे ऐसे होते हैं. You take a small sample size, extrapolate it, and arrive at a decision, which is what people do. They make the shortcut. And I hate that when people do it. कि सारे पड़ोसी ना ऐसे होते हैं, कुत्ते के मीने होते हैं सारे पड़ोसी.
right.
ये आपके पड़ोसी.
Eventually realize it's all about you here. There is an energy that you carry, and there is a way. Even if you're dealing with somebody who's maybe not in the same alignment of values, etc., you can easily, with time, with you becoming more and more in tune with your values and your internal voice, I think it becomes a reverse impact. Rather than they affecting you, you kind of have an effect on them. Right? I think that is where society start changing. Where perhaps the good is such a bad thing to say. Good is like a judgment. But if all the good people start also kind of being a bit more vocal in a way, right, and talking about these things, then things will change. Yeah. क्योंकि बहुत हमने वो heroes बना लिए हैं of only looking at materialistic things. I feel social entrepreneurship is so underrated. बिकॉज कोई कॉलेज से निकलता है मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम यही होता है कि मैं कैसे कैसे अपने मुझे कितना पैकेज मिला और ग्लोरीफाई भी वही करते हैं. आप देखो जब भी ट्रिब्यून के अंदर या इंडियन एक्सप्रेस के अंदर या कोई भी ये लोकल हमारे न्यूज हैं वो ये बताएं यूपीएस से सो एंड सो पास आउट हुआ उनकी फर्स्ट स्टार्टिंग सैलरी इतनी थी.
You can't imagine the pressure it puts
क्वेश्चन ऑफ द सोसाइटी एज वेल राइट. ठीक है थोड़े लग तक पैसा चाहिए पर आप कितने ऐसे लोग हैं जो बड़े बिग टाइम कंसल्टिंग एंड बैंकिंग के अंदर चले जाते हैं 10-15 साल लगा के आ जाते हैं पैसे भी कमा लेते हैं बहुत सारे बट उनको लगता है कि यार ये इसमें कुछ मजा नहीं आ रहा. नाउ दे वांट टू डू समथिंग एल्स क्योंकि उन्होंने वो 15 साल के ऐसे कमा लिए. मैं कह रहा हूँ वो 15 साल भी क्यों वेस्ट करो यार. Why do you have to wake up after 15-20 years of making all that money and then do something which is your passion project? Earn a little bit lesser money. Forget about what people will say really, and have that kind of discipline and that strength to go through the period where maybe you may be making lesser money than your friend who got placed somewhere else. यार मतलब उस स्टेज पे अगर हम पहुंचे कि फर्क ही नहीं पड़ेगा यार ठीक है उसने बना लिया लेकिन मैं खुश हूँ क्योंकि मैं शायद सोशल एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप में जाना चाहता हूँ या मैं ऐसी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में हूँ जहाँ पे इतना पॉलिटिक्स नहीं है. मेरे जो 8 घंटे हैं मैं उसमें ज्यादा सीख रहा हूँ. राइट ऐसे कई केसेस हैं. देयर आर पीपल हु वर्क विद बिग कंपनीज दे रियलाइज दैट दे हैव नॉट डन एनीथिंग फॉर 6 मंथ्स. उनको हेफ्टी सैलरीज मिल रही हैं. वो 6 महीने साल के बाद में बोलते हैं यार हमारे स्किल्स ही चले गए. वी आर पुट ऑन द बेंच. वी आर गेटिंग सैलरी. वी आर एट होम. वी गॉट नथिंग टू डू. But for after a year, they realized उनके जो बाकी friend थे, they were earning maybe 40,000-50,000 rupees less than them शुरू में. Their skill sets are great, because they're working somewhere where there is more exposure that they're getting.
Maybe. And take Pancham, I think we have covered a lot of ground. I'm going to just ask you a couple of more questions, then I think we can wrap up.
Sure.
I want, because I know that you are an avid reader. You were the person who encouraged me to start reading books when I was at Q Blocks, and we had a very small library in the entertainment area. And there's one book I started with. I used to talk a lot about books with Deepshika, and you give me few books, and she said read this, read that, and I went downstairs and I told her I cannot read, and I don't know if she said or I think what I realized is no, I realized that after reading the book. So I picked the smallest book I could find at that library. There was Who Will Cry When You Die, and I think I saw the note of I think Avneet gifted that book to Sarthak. It was note on that book. I read that book from cover to cover. It was beautiful book. Again, the theme was about being kind, about being honest, and I loved that book. And I started with that. I finished that book. Then I read Alchemist, and then there were more books I read. And then
Right.
very soon I realized, and now tell people who tell me that I'm not into books. I don't like reading books. I tell them books, they're like movies. If you don't like one movie, doesn't mean that you'll not like the next movie. Don't say that you don't like books. You did not like one author, his writing style, maybe you didn't like the story. But if you try, you will find a book, an author that you will be able to connect with, and then your journey will start as a person, your learning journey. But sorry, I digressed. My question to you is, from all the books you have read, and I want to ask you a specific question. From all the books you have read, what are the book or books that you will give to your kid when he or she is 20 years old? And you have to tell me what books you'll give him or her when he or she's 20 years old, and then you have to tell me what book or books you'll give him or her when she's 30 years old. And I'm not going to ask you about 40, because I think after 30 you have that taste. You don't need many recommendations book. You can pick up
Right.
books, you can pick that trail. But 20s and
Sure.
30s is two milestones of life, I think, when a kid or a person is going through transformation more radically. So how would you answer that?
That's a very good question. I think I can maybe go from my experience about the books that really helped me, and I realized that I was very thankful that I got a chance to read them. बीच में पढ़ी थी, but I never really used to enjoy it. Although fiction has great benefits in terms of increasing your creativity, etc., you can be transported to a different place, and it's a great way of. It's almost like teleportation if you really enjoy genre and you connect with the story, etc. Or even if you don't enjoy it and you take it as a way of how a writer is expressing himself or herself. बड़ा अच्छा communication skill हो सकता है. And my wife Nausheen, she's a much more ardent reader than I am.
You know.
Sometimes I read like 3-4 pages and I'm just dozing off. And there are sometimes I kind of would read a lot more. So based on that, I think definitely. So for a 20-year-old at that time, so one book I would recommend to everybody would be The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. I read that when I was in my first year of college, and that started the journey of for me to read more books around self-help. And some people don't like the genre of self-help कि यार ये बड़ा preachy लगता है. I don't take it like that. I say that this is an experience of somebody who has shared certain things, and then आप देखो आपके लिए क्या work करता है. It's a distilled form of wisdom, etc. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, I think it is relevant to any and everybody, whether in your professional life or personal life. Highly recommended. Yeah, we lost Stephen Covey a few years back, but what a legend and what kind of an impact he's made. और उसमें जो भी ये 7 habits हैं, 7 points हैं, or he mentions that these are things that are not new, but he explains it in such a beautiful manner, and he says that these are things that all scriptures talk about as well. So I would highly recommend, अगर आप जो भी ऑडियंस में से किसी ने नहीं भी पढ़ी है, प्लीज ये लीजिए. दिस इज वन ऑफ द बुक्स दैट आई हैव गिफ्टेड अ लॉट टू मेनी पीपल. Sometimes they've read it, sometimes they haven't, but it really, and I keep the books with me and I keep underlining it, keep going back to it again and again. One is this. Second would be, Pulkit, would be something to do with health, and one of the best books for me for health would be How Not to Die by Dr. Michael Greger.
Wow.
So for me, Dr. Michael Greger is like
I love the title. How not to die.
sorry.
I love the title. How not to die.
Yeah, yeah, and he's like a true karma yogi. Yaar. What a fantastic person! Amazing journey. He runs this website called nutritionfacts.org. Charges no money. There are no ads. He's not selling you anything, and he does it basically as a labor of love and as a service to his grandmother. And amazing guy. So How Not to Die. उनकी दूसरी एक किताब है How Not to Diet, DIET, which has also come out a few months back, which I've also read. But How Not to Die is a great book. Third would be Pulkit, 5 Languages of Love. This I believe I have it here. Hmm. This is by. Let me see if I can find the. Sometimes I forget the name of the author. By Gary Chapman. Five Languages of Love. Have you read it, Pulkit?
If Charu listens to you right now recommending this book, she'll kill me because she
Yeah.
bought me bought this book for me. It was a thick book. I read it. Oh my god! That's a funny thing about reading books. The same books, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. I read it when I was too young. I couldn't connect. I find that
Right.
the writing style of the author too hard to, because he used I maybe I might not think that way, because when I read it first time, I find the vocabulary and the way it was written not very easy to understand. Maybe it was just my skills, my reading skills were not up to the mark. I read it too soon. I was hardly 15. I was very young. My Tauji gifted that book to me. I couldn't connect. I did not read that. Ended up reading that book until recently. I listened to the audiobook. I was obviously able to connect now. I read the book. I
Right.
could connect now. And this
Right.
book is on my list. Charu is after my life. You should read this book. And I haven't read it.
The Five Languages of Love.
Yeah, she wants to
Uh,
read it.
and why I say 20 is because usually, it'll open up the way we will approach our relationships here. And this book talks about how there are different things that are important to different people. And usually conflict happens if, for me, my language of love is service, time, gifting, whatever, in certain order. और जो मेरा पार्टनर है उसका कुछ और इम्पोर्टेंस है एंड आई एम एक्सप्रेसिंग माई लव बाय सेइंग कि मैं अपने लिए आपको टाइम दे रहा हूँ बट उनके लिए लव को एक्सपेक्ट करने का तरीका ये है कि इफ यू आर नॉट जस्ट स्पेंडिंग टाइम बट यू आर आल्सो डूइंग समथिंग एल्स राइट so just understanding this kind of makes it a lot more easier and I think it'll 20 is a good age to kind of get that so that
You fell in
either
love.
later on yeah whatever you're kind of more
Yeah, yeah.
you understand that more. So
Yes.
these three definitely for somebody who's 20, 30 would be there's so many books, right? I could say The Alchemist, or I could say like the ones
Okay,
which are
let me tell you why 30 is an interesting age, because 30 is the time when you 20 is the time when you're not making any money, you're finding your place in the world. You don't
right,
have
right,
context, you have knowledge and wisdom from your parents, from your friends. Do this, don't do this. You don't have
yeah,
context, and you're not earning anything, and you don't know what you want to do in life. So it's an interesting age. By the time you're 30, you're making money, you have some
yeah,
salary, maybe you have a business, and maybe you're also married, you're fresh into a relationship, and you have started to get more mature and get more fuller view of life. What do you really want? So at that point, and what is that book that can help someone in that transition to see the world
बिल्कुल,
with.
sure. No, that's very well explained, Pulkit. I think एक तो शायद अगर मुझे तीन books थी 20 में I would have said Bhagavad Gita as well and I've said other things which I think should be everybody should read because there's so much wisdom in these scriptures if you approach it the right way and you can make out it's what they're talking about. So at the age of 30 I would say first book would be there's a book called One Straw Revolution. So that's a book on it's a book on a way of agriculture called permaculture or no-till agriculture. I'm personally very inclined towards that lifestyle, and I feel that a lot of millennials are as well, where they are kind of going to organic farms and they're actually going and volunteering rather than actually going and working with big corporates for at least a few years. So, One Straw Revolution is a great book, Japanese author, but it's translated into multiple languages. In fact, यहाँ पे जो पंजाब में there's a gentleman by the name of Rishi. He is part of the organic farmers market. He is the one who actually translated into Punjabi. So it's also available in Punjabi. So One Straw Revolution. Then I think second would be any book there's a great book called Your Erroneous Zone by Dr. Wayne Dyer. So Wayne Dyer has some amazing books. Yeah. I would say I haven't met him, but he has been almost like my spiritual leader. I could relate to him so much. Not relate to him, I could learn from him so much his audiobooks and also these books. So Your Erroneous Zone is a great book which talks about how there are issues in the way we perceive people and certain habits. So I think 30 is a great age for that. And maybe third book would be uh, The 4 Hour Week, maybe by Tim Ferriss. That comes to my mind.
I'm rereading that
Yeah,
book.
yeah, yeah. And there are many others, right? There's so many books I have here. The Power of Habit and, 0 to 1, super immunity, etc., etc. But I think these are the ones which come to my mind at this point in time.
I have my reading list now. I'll put the links in the notes of this podcast
Sure.
to help people. One book, if I can recommend, because you mentioned a book about relationships, and when someone at the age of 20, people fall in love, often fall in
Yeah.
love. Often it ends up being their partner for life. They end up getting married. So one book I really loved about relationships and understanding the feeling of falling in love is Essays in Love by
Sorry.
Essays in Love.
Ah, okay.
It's by Alain de Botton. It's an English. He's an English writer.
Okay.
It's a beautiful book, a beautiful written book. Because what happens is in this book is that he was in a relationship with his girlfriend, and now he goes back. He's out of that relationship, and now he goes back, revisits that relationship, and walks us through all the feelings, especially a guy, a man goes through when he sees a girl. He would notice the minutest detail, that she has a mole on her lip, she's
Right.
was
Right.
wearing this and that, and he will make a goddess figure out of that simple human being who has flaws, who is a person, and you make that god figure that she's so perfect in all the ways that you see her in perfection. Right from that point to being in that relationship, how you get used to of those things, and then you start to witness each other's imperfections, something as simple as the smell of the sweat, all those things.
Yeah.
In that,
Right.
how
Right.
he when they start seeing each other's parents, how the dynamics change, and then
Right.
when they're out of the relationship, how does that happen, and the roles that movies have to play, the Hollywood and Bollywood movies. For him, Hollywood and English movies, the
Yeah.
picture they paint in our mind about falling in love, how they set a fatalistic attitude that someone somewhere is made for you, हमें तो
Right.
मिलना
Right.
ही था एक दूसरे के लिए, all that thing, how does that plays a role for us when we fall in a relationship. And he doesn't
Sure.
say, and he's not judgmental about it, he doesn't say that it is wrong, and but he gives you a fresh angle when I can look at my past relationships and even my relationships now
Right.
with my wife. I see my relationship, how I when I met her, now how do I feel about her now. It puts all my feelings and my expectations with my partner in check. Now that I know that how my brain works when I meet someone, when वो कहते हैं तुम तो बदल ही गए, जब तुम मिले थे ऐसे थे, तुम ऐसे हो गए हो, तुमने तो ये कहा, तुमने वो कहा था. You keep yourself in check. So that book really helped me to understand myself, uh, what I did when I was in that age. That is a very entertaining
Are
book.
you around?
I really enjoyed reading that book. It's very entertaining.
Right. Right. Awesome. Awesome. I'm gonna buy this one. Yeah. I'm definitely gonna buy this book.
Very entertaining. Okay, Mancham, I think one last question, then we can move on to our remaining Sunday evenings.
Sure. Sure.
I want to ask you, what are your tools to be a happier person? Are there any daily practices you do on a daily basis to be a happier person? Any tools, techniques you use? The reason I ask this question is because I have learned that happiness is not something that happens automatically. It's like building a muscle. You have to work towards it, being happy. Every day you have to do something to be happy. Happiness doesn't come by default.
Sure.
Maybe it does, but it's you have to be aware that I have to do something about it. It's how I look my happiness. I try to make the moments to experience that. Are there any practices in place you have to be a happier person?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Yeah, and I've also learned this from people and applied it. And there are things that work well for me, and there are some universal things that work. So, one of the best things you can do for enhancing your happiness, and which I try and do as well, is have a daily gratitude journal. So, anytime, whenever I wake up in the morning, either I write it down, preferably if you take out 5 odd minutes, and you write down what are the 5 things or 3 things that you're grateful for today. It could be, and try and make it different every time. Don't make the same thing everything, and you'll realize that as you start writing down, there are so many things that are probably working for you, and it also shifts the mind in such a way that you start your day rather than being grumpy and looking at all the challenges that are there in front of you, the unfinished work, the things that you get back to. and you become in a responsive state. It starts with आपका घड़ा भरा होता है शुरू में. तो आप अपना सुबह उठते ही जब अपना घड़ा भर लेते हो और देखते हो कि यार शुक्र है, in whatever, either you are spiritually, religiously, or even if you're agnostic, you're an atheist, but if you write it down, it basically transforms your mind from a state of being in a state of want to a state of being fulfilled and happy and content. So I think that I try and do. If I don't write it down, ideally if you write it down and you take out those 5 odd minutes, that's one of the best things you can do. But if you do not, honestly, you don't have to buy a gratitude journal. There are many out there. Some of them are good, but even if you just have a diary and start writing down, that's really good. I think second is I try and not compare myself with people. Yeah. That's one of the, and I think right from the very beginning I've been like that. I try and I don't look at others and say कि यार उसके पास है मेरे पास नहीं है. और कभी अगर मैं कर भी लेता हूँ, ऐसा कभी होता भी है या थॉट आती भी है, I try and check myself and I try and meditate on it as to why is it that I'm feeling that way. And usually when you do that, you realize you come to a certain kind of understanding. And जब आप अपने आप से खुद बात करते हो और realize करते हो कि हर एक की अपनी journey है यार, और मेरे लिए क्या important है. And that I think really helps a lot. That makes your life easy. Now, whenever you talk about contentment, लोग सोचते हैं कि यार ये लोग they are not ambitious. I want to make that distinction. I read it somewhere in a book where they said that you want to be in a state. I'll come to it. It's just skipping my mind right now. That sentence that the author used. I'll come to it. But yeah, I think comparison is a big killer when you look at comparing yourself with people. And third is I try and meditate for some time. Yeah. Sometimes it's only for 5 minutes. Sometimes it could be for a little bit longer. There are days or there are months where there's a better routine, and there are months and days where the routine is not there much. But I try and touch upon meditation almost every day in some form or the other.
Talking about comparisons, one thing that really used to make me uncomfortable, Pancham, when I was in my 28, 27, was the Forbes under 30 list. It used to really make me uncomfortable. Looking at people, some of the people I knew in my circle who was in that list, and many people who were faking it, and some of them who really were in that Forbes under 30 list. When I was in 29, 30, I was thought, oh shit, मैंने कुछ नहीं किया. In 30s, they are doing this and that. I used to look at the list, and कहीं ना कहीं मेरे दिमाग में होता था कि नहीं यार काश मैं भी. अब I don't know how to say that. अब मैं कहूँ अंगूर खट्टे हैं, मतलब I turned 30, I did never made into that list, or maybe I don't regret now. कि I think I don't feel right in my mind now to expect myself to ever make it, because A, I never made that plan. B, it's a stupid idea again to compare, because everyone is on different journey. We all start from a very different point in life. I understand that now. I'm just telling you, when I was in my 28, 27, I used to get nervous. Okay, I'm going to turn 30 and I'm not in the Forbes 30 list.
No, बड़ा common है पुलकित ये ना. This because of the way our society is, that we applaud such achievements, right? These external achievements, and the media is geared towards it, how much you've made, etc. और मैं वही कह रहा हूँ that there are people who do social entrepreneurship, there are people who do so much work which are not even covered by the media, but they are making an impact. और उनसे अगर हम मिलते हो, जब भी आप किसी कंटेंट लोग से मिलते हो ना, किसी कंटेंट बंदे से मिलते हो, आपको खुद से शांति मिलती है और आपको रियलाइज होता है कि यार यही शांति तो चाहिए, ये शांति तो मैं चाहता हूँ. सो कंटेंट होना does not mean that कि आपके ambition नहीं है. And that statement I was looking for, I read it somewhere, that you need to have a healthy discontent with your status quo. I really like that. Whatever is your status quo, उससे आप अगर if you say that this is it, I don't need to do anything, you may not probably make efforts to do something else, right? So the other side is that you are so discontent with it, and it's so perverted that you're never in the moment, you're never in the now, you're not enjoying it. It's always there कि यार जब वो मिलेगा मुझे तब मजा आएगा, जब उतनी टर्नओवर होगी, जब वो गाड़ी होगी, जब मैं वो करूंगा, जब मैं वहां पे वेकेशन पे जाऊंगा, जब वो मेरा घर होगा. That will never happen.
It'll never
So
happen.
I think I really like that statement, that to have a healthy डिसकंटेंट विद योर स्टेटस को। हेल्दी क्या है वो आप डिफाइन कर सकते हो, वो आप ही को ही डिफाइन करना है कि आपके लिए हेल्दी क्या है।
I love that. I think it's a part for us to good point for us to just end our, I think, part one conversation in which we have covered about, we have spoken about business, and there's also two indications. There's a fly that's bugging me much. I have to get rid of it, and my daughter outside is crying so much. I'm sure her crying sound is with everyone can hear now. So that is Nitara who's making all that noise. For people who are wondering who's that cranky baby, that's my daughter. But Mancham, I really enjoyed my conversation with you. As always, I did not plan to that we would go this long. And thank you so much for taking our time, Pancham. I learned so much. Just to tell people, Pancham has, and just telling you so that you keep your promise. We're having a part two conversation in which I'm going to ask questions to Pancham about health, which is where his current expertise is. He's done a lot of research about health and fitness, and I so want to learn from him. I just need time to prepare for my discussion with Pancham so that I can ask good questions. And Pancham is going to be busy expecting the families.
Anytime from now. Yeah, any day. Yeah, our first child is coming. Due date is 25th of August, but you never know. Maybe the baby decides to come a bit early, maybe a bit later. I'm betting on 22nd August, and the second date is 2nd September.
And
So we have a running bet.
I'm hoping 26th August because it's my birthday.
I know.
It'll be easier for me to remember his or her birthday then. Okay, Pancham.
Great. Yeah, I look forward to the next conversation. Thank you so much, Pulkit. Really, really enjoyed talking to you every time, and I was able to open up because of the way the questions were framed and the conversation went. It was really fantastic. It didn't sound like an interview at all. It was just like, as friends we've done in the past as well, talking to each other, sharing our experiences. So maybe whatever I may have said, some people may like or may not like, but that's how life is. Take what makes sense and keep the other for future perspective.
Yeah, Pancham. And I forgot to mention, you mentioned that you were about to start your blog and podcast. Are you planning to do it sooner?
I've been talking about it for a long time, and my blog, which will be focused on health and wellness and longevity and biohacking, human optimization, whatever little I've learned over these last 6 odd years, is going to be on my site called pancham.health. And we'll talk more about it. अभी आपको वहाँ पे सिर्फ एक message है. Hopefully, by the time this goes live and people access it, they can subscribe to a newsletter or whatever. And if they're keen, they can follow me on Instagram or Facebook, etc. Just search for Pancham Prashar, and I'll start sharing more content very soon. Yeah,
I so look forward to that, your blog and your learnings, because Pancham, I see there's a lot of confusion around, especially in India, because there's a lot of advice given by Americans, by English people, and Indians as well. But the problem is a lot. It is not implementable. When they say that you have to eat so and so diet, you need so and so. They're all. Where do you buy it in India? What do you call that in Indian food? I mean, how do you do?
But
Indian
you're right.
Yeah.
I think ancient grains, talk about eating and buying local. That awareness is coming, and I think we need to talk a lot more about it. Maybe in the next podcast we'll go a little bit more deeper into it.
I so look forward to it, Pancham. I'm glad you're doing it. Okay, Pancham, thank you so much for your time.
You should go to Nitara now. Thank you so much for your time. Great speaking with you.